grilled the former Postmaster General. Why haven't you brought a plan? And that plan never arrived. The status quo at the Postal Service is not sustainable. Postmaster General DeJoy should be commended for doing the hard work to confront the realities facing the Postal Service. I'm eager to work with both my Republican and Democratic colleagues to reform the Postal Service, ensure its fiscal sustainability, and improve service to the American people. We must tackle and address the real issues facing the Postal Service. I look forward to hearing from today's witnesses on their ideas to improve the Postal Service. Now I'd like to yield to the ranking member of the Government Operations Subcommittee, Ranking Member Heiss from Georgia.
I thank the ranking member and Chairwoman Maloney. Thank you for calling this hearing today. And we all agree that the Postal Service is critical for our country, and it calls for serious debate. But I would agree with the ranking member that for this past year, Democrats spread false information and really blamed Republicans and the previous administration and the Post Office for an attempt to co-opt the 2020 elections. And we are dealing with that. And just by way of remembrance, I've got some quotes that were made right here in this very room. Quote, "An attack on our Postal Service and an attempt to dismantle our Postal Service out of a selfish desire to sabotage our democracy and maintain grip on power is an attack on all of us." So somehow last year we were all in here, us being accused, and Mr. DeJoy and the Postal Service, of sabotaging our democracy. The Speaker said, "The President, his cronies, and the Republicans in Congress continue to wage their all-out assault on the Postal Service and its role in ensuring the integrity of the 2020 election." So somehow we were all involved in an attempt to destroy the election. Then there was another member of this committee, Mr. DeJoy, you will probably remember this. You sat here in this room and had to hear this straight up. He said to you, quote, "How dare you disenfranchise so many voters? You know that it's a felony for a Postal Service officer or employee to delay delivery of mail. Somehow you can delay all the mail and get away with it. They can be prosecuted. You can't, even if your actions are a million times worse." And then he said, "Mr. DeJoy, is your backup plan to be pardoned like Roger Stone?" How unfair to make those kinds of unbelievable accusations and allegations. That same representative went on and suggested that we may need to arrest you in order to have you show up here for a hearing, which of course was unnecessary. You did it voluntarily. Then there was a picture that went online, like this one here, of a member chained to a mailbox. This did nothing but create fear in the American people. This did nothing but put distrust in the American people with the Postal Service. And I bring all this up because we endured all this last year, all year long. But let's remember what Mr. DeJoy actually did with the Postal Service. First, he removed the blue mailbox drop boxes. But in so doing, was that an attempt to sabotage the election? Absolutely not. His routine process. In fact, over the last couple of decades, 35,000 of those drop boxes have been removed, some 12,000 under President Obama's watch. We didn't hear anything about it then. It was only when Mr. DeJoy continues the process of scaling down. One of the other things he did was take out mail sorting machines. Perhaps that had something to do with the fact that mail volume has drastically declined, and these machines take up a lot of room, space needed for packaging processing. He also reduced overtime. Well, let's just by remembrance bring to mind that the Postal Inspector General is the one who documented rampant overtime use and abuse, the cost of which was over $1.1 billion in 2018 alone. If that much overtime is a norm in the operating procedures of the Postal Service, then yes, there's a serious problem with overtime. Now, perhaps all of this that I'm saying is water under the bridge at this point. I certainly hope so. Maybe now we can get back to the real issue at hand, which is authentic reform of the Postal Service. And maybe the efforts of Postmaster DeJoy will be put behind us, and at this point that the election is over, perhaps things will calm down as it relates to the rhetoric that has been so consistent this past year from the Democrats, or maybe it won't. I don't know. We'll see. But as we roll into this debate, as Chairwoman Maloney has said, she hopes this to be a bipartisan movement. But again, I would say just yesterday, another member of this committee made the following quote: Louis DeJoy is a political hack, a crony of Donald Trump, and a massive Republican donor. He's taking a wrecking ball to the U.S. Postal Service. So I don't know that we're going to get over some of the rhetoric or not. And quite frankly, I would venture to raise the question, with that kind of statement made just yesterday, are we there now to assume that the Biden administration is not going to have anyone in any position appointed who has not given money to the Democrats? Are we to assume from that kind of statement that now Republicans have the green light to day in and day out relentlessly go after any member of the Biden administration who has donated in the past to Democrats? But while today's hearing is about the Postal Service, it's not supposed to be about Louis DeJoy, but I doubt if that's going to be the case. And why does all this matter? Well, at the end of the day, I, like the ranking member, have many concerns about the poor performance of the Postal Service in recent months. Our office has been covered up with complaints. And Mr. DeJoy is the captain of the ship. The buck stops with him. But the important thing at the end of the day is that the Postal Service have strong leadership and that they have a plan to improve rather than sit back and wait for more taxpayer bailouts and assistance. But if we're going to demand reform, which we should, why should we believe that there is not going to be more of the insane, damaging rhetoric in the past? And I hope I'm wrong with that. Why should we believe that any steps, other than those in the draft bill here, which really erases tens of billions of dollars in misplaced payments and unfunded liabilities, which, frankly, I support those basic concepts in this draft bill. But those things are not enough. But why should we believe that the rabid resistance is not going to continue? If moving blue boxes and mail sorters and trying to bring sanity to overtime usage is somehow viewed as criminal activity by the postmaster, then what in the world is going to happen to the business plan that he comes up with? And what is any postmaster general, be it Mr. DeJoy or someone else, going to do to try to right the ship of the Postal Service? I'll be very much interested in hearing some of these questions answered today. We've got to get input and deal seriously with reform issues and get beyond nonsensical, insane, rabid rhetoric that has been coming for the past year. And I hope we'll be able to do that. Madam Chairwoman, I yield.